This is a mechanical wireless keyboard with features that can easily rival and surpass some of the biggest gaming manufacturers for just $75. There's a lot of features I'm excited to tell you about. Number 5 will shock you. It won't actually, because it's just a keyboard, it's not really life changing. But just how good is it? Is this a keyboard that will collapse after one heated gamer moment? To preface this, I am mainly going to be comparing this to other gaming keyboards I have used. I do like keyboards, but I wouldn't call myself an enthusiast because I like money more. This is called the Tezzare or Tezzare TK63 Pro. I feel like you should roll your tongue in the R's, but I can't, so I won't. At first glance it does look cheap, which is expected. The whole thing is plastic, but that does mean it's at a pretty reasonable weight, so it's not going to be a chunky boy. My initial thoughts were that of fears. I feel that a cheap keyboard could rattle, feel unstable, and possibly result in the feeling of rubbing plastic against each other. But despite the initial concerns with quality, it feels pretty nice to type on. There is a bit of noise from the plastic on plastic, but that's expected. It's not like it's lying to me. It's a plastic keyboard and that's what I'm getting. Anyway, here's a sound check with the mechanical switches. I am using Gateron browns, but you can also choose blue, red or black switches. There's also a nice delightful extra for this keyboard as well, that is the switches are hot swappable. This is something that I've seen around a lot recently with keyboards and something that I feel is absolutely an amazing feature. There's a switch puller, so you just yank out the old ones and slap in the other ones of your choice, providing it's compatible. And there you go. Fancy trying a new switch type? Well, no need to get the soldering iron out and risk burning your carpet and flesh. As the construction is pretty much flat as well, it should be easy to give a light clean with some compressed air and a brush, or even just take the keycaps off for something more thorough. There's not many areas for any dirt to build up, which is something I personally really like, as I get a lot of crisps on my keyboard. As you can see as well, you get some lovely colours to go with this keyboard. It has something called pudding PBT keycaps. Why are they called pudding? I assume it's because they do look like pudding. Case closed. These will naturally make your keyboard look brighter and more vibrant, allowing you to take some fantastic pictures of your setup to share on Instagram. There's an array of lighting options that I'll touch upon a bit later on. Overall, the quality of this is actually acceptable considering the price. I think it somewhat surpasses its price point in terms of expected quality. As an example, a Corsair K70 Champion series I reviewed pretty much just about matches the quality of this one, and that was significantly more expensive than this, with it costing around about $130. There's also a great plethora of other features that should be expected as a standard for a gaming keyboard, but the fact that again this is included at an incredible price is worth mentioning. There's no software required, so if it's something you'd like to do without, there you go. There's an array of functions that come with pressing the function key, with media keys, Windows lock. My favourite, as this is a wireless keyboard, don't forget, is that when you're on wireless you can press function and backspace and it will show you the current keyboard battery life on the number row. I thought that was brilliant. And yes, the wireless part. You can have it in 2.4 GHz wireless, Bluetooth supported as well, or a USB Type-C connection if you need to give the keyboard some juice, or you're just concerned about the harmful 2.4 GHz rays. Now, I have experienced a slight issue with using this on 2.4 GHz wireless. No, it hasn't affected my vital organs, but I have noticed that it does seem to cause a few misinputs. Mainly there's been a few moments when I've pressed a button on the keyboard and then it's held it in, it's repeated that key press. This has happened a few times. It's not very regularly, maybe about once per hour, but it has happened. I promise I'm not crazy. When using it wired though, there's no issues at all. Bluetooth connection, don't care, I'm a gamer, I'm not going to use Bluetooth for gaming. Are you mad? Anyway, the USB dongle has a little bed on the underside of the keyboard, and there's also an on-off switch located here. Obviously, as it's wireless, there's going to be a question of how long the battery life will last for. How big is the battery? It's around 3000, I can't remember what mAh stands for, which is a good size, pretty much the size of a phone battery now. What about the battery life? There's nothing that I've seen that gives me an estimate at all, but what I can say, in the couple of weeks that I've used it, I haven't had it go flat. I have plugged it in to test various things with the keyboard, but that's all. I haven't yet purposely charged it because it's going flat. There's software as well, which when I installed it, it was set to Chinese by default. Luckily, I am incredibly stubborn, so I pressed everything that I could to find the language language change option and I was successful. The software is pretty basic, you can edit and change some keys if you want to, and apply some macros. It does tell you how much battery life is left as well, which is in the top right and it's very small. Also in the application tray it's still in Chinese. As for the lighting options, there's many different variations. If this is something that determines whether or not you buy a keyboard, well, I'm very disappointed in you. Now you are probably thinking, gee whiz mister, this is a glowing review thus far, is there anything wrong with this? And the answer to your question is yeah. Obviously I have reference to the cheap feeling of the keyboard, which as I have said is okay for the price this comes at, but there is also one thing I do not like. Now I am aware that this is in fact an ANSI layout, so American, and not in ISO, but the fact that the question mark button has been relocated from its normal position to the right of shift and the arrow key is a travesty. A travesty, I tell you. I could rebind it in the software, but I shouldn't have to. This is a massive and disgusting oversight that has left me feeling emotionally vulnerable and I hate it. The other minor gripe is the angle of the feet that you have and the feet in general. There's only really two options, you either have it flat or at a slight angle. Also the rubber feet and everything's also pretty cheap, so when you start typing it does seem to be a bit louder than it really should be. Now obviously I have mentioned the missed inputs as well, so you know there's only 3 issues, which is surprising for, again, the cost. I'm going to keep on mentioning the cost. In conclusion, I think this is actually a very good keyboard. Now I am saying this as someone who has got a completely functional version. When and if you get this one in its matching state, I think this is a fine piece of kit. When taking into account the price of $75 makes it even better. I would honestly recommend this keyboard. I would say though it's best to buy it from a retailer that provides good returns and replacements, just because naturally going for a smaller unknown brand does have its risks. But if you get one that is as good as mine, it is really good. It's heaped with features that are more than just gimmicks. It rivals some of the gaming keyboards from some of the more popular brands like Corsair and Logitech. So really this is a nice surprise. I'll be very honest, I was expecting the kind of quality that would probably maybe equal a keyboard you'd find from a Christmas cracker if it could fit, or a vending machine. But in fact this has certainly changed my perspective of what a mechanical gaming keyboard should be as a standard. So overall, I'd say give it a shot, why not buy it? If you're wanting something with a bit more of a premium feel, I will put a review of a keyboard up now which should fit that profile.